Millennium Consulting is running a series of podcasts during which we hear about the careers and backgrounds of some of the most successful technology leaders. Today we are talking with Ken Balman, Senior Vice President based in Cape Town. Welcome, Ken. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
No, thank you very much, Sam, and I look forward to it, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
We'll kick things off with your career highlights. You've enjoyed a successful career within the technology industry for some leading organisations. Can you describe the highlight of your career?
Certainly, Sam. It's been a bit of an evolutionary journey, to be honest, and a fantastic journey as such, in that every moment of since the career started way back, the opportunities that I've had in various industry sectors around the world, so I didn't just start off locally. That there was the first opportunities were actually in the UK, and then it just blossomed from there. And learning, the learning journey as I went through the technology developments, the business process based developments, the whole method, all the methodologies surrounding how these technologies were going to fit into a business space and make that business either more successful or more efficient, was very much the start of this evolutionary journey. But more importantly, some of the highlights for me were how, in the past, in the old classical approach, that people were not regarded as the principal owners of the technology. The technologists were always perceived as being the owners of the technology, forcing the businesses to actually take on these technologies, in any shape or form, and not having an overall sort of vision for what these things were meant to be for, into these technologies, whether it be at the infrastructure layer or whether it be at the systems layer, and that little sort of systems process intervention layer was never really recognized. And that's one thing that I took cognizance of and found that it wasn't actually going to work. So if you're going to just throw technology at me as a business, I'm going to say to you, well, there's the door. So and this is how it's evolved to where it is today and where I am today. Having taken all these lessons learned in this journey that I've been on, and applied those lessons, and found it to be actually worth my while and successful.
Great answer, thank you. Next, we're going to look at challenges. What are the main challenges you faced in your career?
I think the main challenges for me have been really the time taken to the evolution, right? So I never wanted to be a technologist, but having been and somebody who's sitting there as a coder or somebody who understands IT networks or the infrastructure surrounding how all this fits together, so that basically at the end of the day an end user can log onto a machine, whether it be that old green screen sort of era, or whether it is in this new life that we're in right now. The challenges have been for me to want to understand where I want to fit into the bigger scheme of things. Yes, I could code. Yes, I understand how to plug in a network cable. But I think that's where that was the start of the journey, as I mentioned earlier. But I always found it difficult to keep myself challenged by those things that weren't happening fast enough. And as I mentioned before, the challenge was now to actually evolve myself into something more important, that the business will get benefit out of it, both from the technology perspective and how the efficiency in the processes inside and so forth. So it was just a period, but maybe that's just me being, impatient. But anyway, it's worked to date.
What personal qualities do you possess that have enabled you to be successful working within the technology industry?
Versatile to change, right? Okay, I've definitely been an ardent follower of change. So, and hence, one of the big drivers for me for that was the process re-engineering and the process engineering stage. And I won't say process re-engineering or engineering to the point of where you're taking away something that's actually working, as I say, don't fix what ain't broke, but trying to make that process more efficient, trying to make that process best in class, or whatever the industry is saying about that process, and what's going to do, and how the technologies themselves are going to fit that and be versatile enough for change. So that is very important. That is very, very important to me. The versatility to change. Don't be afraid of change. And I think, as I say, the older and older you get, the worse it becomes for you to change. And that to me isn't the case. I want to change every day. I have the opportunity now to change every day, whether it be my personal life or within my professional life, right? And I'm going to take advantage of that. Thanks.
Great answer. Thank you. Now let's talk motivation. What motivates you and makes you want to get up in the morning?
Change, man. Change. Life. Okay. So, life, more importantly, is my family. All right. That's what motivates me to get up in the morning. Right. And I think, again, in the professional cycle, the old triangle of people being the foundation of the triangle, then you've got a process, and then you've got a system, right? It's becoming more and more prevalent that the people are becoming more important, right? And they form the foundation. Yes, we can throw technology to this that actually going to alleviate any personal intervention in either a process, or the technologies are becoming so self-sustaining that you need less and less people, and you're looking for a caliber of person which is more self-motivated, self-managed, rather than being managed. And I'm going to change that term, managed, in a moment. But motivation is to keep them motivated, to keep them upbeat, to keep them challenged all the time, like I challenge myself all the time, right? Because this is the new world, right? And this evolution that we've just gone through, so from an 80s type, 90s type, coming into the millennium 2000s, and especially now, my God, okay, the grey foxes and the millennials, and which are now past millennial, they're becoming grey foxes themselves. But you've got to keep everybody motivated, right? So if you can't motivate yourself, all right, then you're going to fail at motivating the people. The process is going to flounder, and the systems are going to become defunct. So that's it. Keep motivated.
And thinking back to the start of your career, is there anything you'd wish you'd known when you first started out?
If I had to think back, that has been the most challenging question to myself. What could have been done differently? Nothing. Because the dynamic nature of the function of IT, and having to keep abreast of the latest technologies and where they can provide competitive advantage, not only to yourself as a person learning more about all these new technologies, especially now in the digitalization age, right? But how in professional life, how the businesses can actually operate more effectively, efficiently. You don't have to use those two terms in the same sentence, but I've just done it because the digital technologies that are available to us, and how we got to apply these, and what we get out of them, the outputs, around the process, around the systems, and so on and so forth, is important. So that's basically it.
And what advice would you give to someone starting out their career in the technology industry?
Too late. Just keep on going, right? Just find a niche, right? And understand what the marketplace is doing, right? I mean, computer science is a very broad term. Whatever spins out of computer science is absolutely a marvel. Now, whether you're actually talking about pure technical comms, 5G coming into our world. What I've seen data, server rooms, about the size of blocks of apartments, coming down to the size of a broom cupboard. So you got to think about all of these things, right? And to the architectural layers, in terms of creating those versatile infrastructures and those flexible versatile structures for change, and how we can use those platforms and stabilize those, more importantly, and how we can use those platforms to create a lot more flexible system-based environments from which we can now start extrapolating Teradata for big data analytics. And go back into the digital thing for robotic process automation, using the Internet of Things as and when required, and so it goes on, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth. So yes, we've always had these mushrooms of data. Now create the Terra platform. Now create something which is actually people can draw from. They can get better predictive analytics and so on and so forth, right? So the dynamic of change again, and the thing keeps on spinning, all right? So look inside of computer science and say, let me go into the avenue of data analytics, all right? And what that means. If you want to code data analytics, it's fine. If you want to code a bot, that's fine. That's great. But computer science in general, all right? So that's, I'm just saying, it's now's the time when we're going through, and we're going to be at the start of a new evolution within the technology sector. So take advantage of it, man, and run.
Yeah, some great advice there. Thank you very much. What are the key skills and personal qualities you look for when hiring staff?
Okay, so again, this evolutionary process, right? So if you go back to the the classical days of IT, yeah, you wanted somebody who understood COBOL, you wanted somebody who's a coder. Nowadays we're finding then you'd go for that person irrespective of personality or anything else, right? So the evolution of that is that people's understanding of the technologies that are out there, whether it be infrastructure systems or the process side of things, is becoming a lot broader. All right. So, if you look at the end user base, they're becoming more tech savvy. All right. So whether it be on mobile or whether it be on at work, whatever. So you've got to apply that and make sure that you've got the right people around you for that. Not I'm saying that you've got to silo these people. You've got to keep on developing them laterally as well. Right. So yes, skill is one thing. Okay. So if I'm looking for a data scientist, all right, who has the necessary SQL, Java, XYZ to produce an output or a dashboard for me, right? I'm looking for the skills in the CV. Sure, person's got that, great. It's only 35% of what I want. 65% I want is your percentage fit into the populace. So, it is the person's personality and that sort of thing. So a large portion of the interview process is taken up by what that person is and who that person is. Rather, we know your skill set, but are you fit? Because the cultures of the business is going to define the type of person that you want in there, right? So, are you outrageous? Are you out there? Are you flamboyant enough? Right? Do you have the necessary people skills? Because people still being the foundation of this, to be able to go and confront the business user and say, listen, by the way, it's not about what you need or what you want. Just give me a pictorial view, or having that interpersonal skill, which is stronger today as a characteristic of a hiring process than what actually the technical skill is.
And sticking with recruitment, what do you think would be the key employment challenges faced by the next generation of employee?
Okay, I think it's not an entitlement. Okay, I'm sorry to say this, right? It's not an entitlement. I think everybody who's been in business, created a business, has worked very, very hard for this, right? And yes, you might have come out with honors in a university degree, and you feel that you're entitled to this. I think, and again, coming back to the person, we'll know about that, and it's a large portion of our lives right now when we go into the hiring process, right? Is that the first thing we look for is in their personality, is if they feel it's an entitlement, and if you've got the creds, both from a interpersonal perspective and you tech savvy, you're in. Okay, so I just want to say that it is not an entitlement, right? Just show your prowess to make yourself successful as a person, as well as while employed, that you make the business successful. So that's my end game on that one.
And back on the subject of you, Ken, what are your interests outside of work, and how do you relax?
Oh, I can't relax. I'm too competitive. I find it difficult. So my interests are in the yachting world. All right. So I'm an avid yacht racer, and also in aviation. So I've got a punch for aviation. And to relax is actually going to sit in the boat and get the boat race worthy for the next race, right? That's how I relax. Or otherwise, I have little projects at home and that sort of thing, which I'll get myself involved with, but I cannot sit still. So, and I think everybody needs a pressure release valve, right? Like a pressure cooker, they need to release their pressure, right? And then because it's getting dynamics of today's everyday life is getting a lot more complex and intense and that sort of thing. So I think everybody needs something. But yeah, I'll go work on the boat, or I'll go and work on the engine, or I'll go and just get to familiarize myself with something new that's coming out in yachting in terms of technology and that sort of thing. And the same thing goes for aviation. So that's my pressure release valve. There you go.
And we're on the last question. So to finish today, it's hard to avoid the subject of COVID-19. But what do you think will be its impact on the global economy during the upcoming few years?
Look, there's going to be a massive impact on that, right? I think we're already seeing it, right? I don't think I need to elaborate on this thing any more than what people are actually experiencing in their own personal lives and what the businesses are experiencing at the moment. One thing that is for sure, the resurrection of the economies is going to be under a different dynamic, and that is that we are going to see changes in the business dynamic. I think the high street type shopping is gone, right? We're seeing a massive surge in e-commerce, and that sort of thing. And also, what it's actually perpetrated is to accentuate the lead time to the next generation workplace. Okay, so is that office now become defunct? Do we still have to work from that? But again, it depends on the business cultures and the personal cultures. But I think it's accentuated a lot in terms of both the digital world. It's accentuated the next generation workplace. I mean, the manner in which everybody had to be activated to work remotely and so on and so forth. So I'm going to see a lot more of that happening and a lot quicker pace. Now, how the economies adapt to this new way of doing things, right? It's up to the business leaders, really, at the end of the day, right? And that's what it's all about. Today, it's not about management anymore. It's about leadership. And that's what COVID-19 has brought about. Don't be a manager, be a leader. Help people.
That ends our chat for today, Ken. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope I've given some sort of insightful feedback to you and on the industry, and yeah, look forward to the next one.
Thank you very much.